many of you cry. Brother, 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 there's far too many of you die.
Good morning and welcome to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. That's 844-967-2789. Text us at that same number. Good morning to you, Calvin. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Earl. How are you?
I'm doing fine, man. It was nice outside yesterday. It's nice today. Look, I know the winter's not officially over, but I think you can stick a pin in it. And as soon as I say that, we'll probably be hit.
Yeah, it definitely was nice yesterday, but it was nice for a March day. It wasn't like the 70s we had last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, man, all in all, man, it's just been a spectacular winter. I'll take this, every year. If for the rest of my life, winter will be like this, count me in, man. Count me in. We got a lot to talk about today. A new segment on our show is going to officially kick off in the 9 o'clock hour. Dr. Omar Eliwa, the pharmacist, is going to be joining us every Thursday at 9 o'clock. If you got any questions about your medication and other things, I would say, by all means, you need to tune in and listen to the really important information that Dr. Omar Eliwa, will be bringing to these airways every Thursday, 9 to 10 a.m. So, like I said, you should mark that down. And as, times go by during the week or months and you have questions about your medication and how you're feeling, by all means, give us a call and listen as Dr. Eliwa. Dr. Eliwa, the pharmacist, will be joining us from this point forward, 9 to 10 a.m., Monday through Friday. Calvin, I wanted to begin the show by, reckless driving, man. I don't know, maybe you live in a small town. Is there any reckless driving in your town?
There probably is, but everyone's so far apart, no one really notices anyone else.
Okay. Well, but in metropolitan cities, it is an epidemic. And man, can you imagine? Just try to envision, Calvin, people driving through red lights at 70 miles an hour. Just driving through red lights, man. And hitting and killing and causing all sorts of carnage. Not just in the city of Milwaukee, but in metropolitan cities all over the nation. There's been this major increase in people and these horrible car crashes. You ever see Gone in 60 Seconds?
I haven't.
You've heard of it, right?
Maybe.
No.
I don't know. Refresh my memory.
Look it up. Gone in 60 Seconds is a franchise of crazy driving. Look it up for us, Calvin. Crazy driving movies where stars drive these cars recklessly throughout, urban centers. And it's certainly garnered a truckload of money as the profits for those movies have gone through the roof and made stars superstars. Everybody from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and others who participate in those movies. And unfortunately, what's the old acronym? Art imitates life. And so many of young people have taken that stuff to heart. So they drive recklessly through stop signs, through stoplights. Well, a movie is the movie. Real life is something altogether different. And man, innocent people are being, and families are being destroyed by people driving recklessly, and not just young people, but in most cases, young people through lights, man, and not knowing anything about etiquette, uh, traffic etiquette. Calvin, you're able to look the movies up, right?
Yeah, so Gone in 60 Seconds is a race car movie, but I think you
Yeah.
were actually referring to the Fast and the
Oh,
Furious
yeah,
franchise.
Fast and the Furious. Okay, yeah, Fast and the Furious. But you've seen those? Have you seen those?
I saw like one of them. They're not
Right,
really my speed.
right. But they're a franchise, right?
Yep, there's like 15 of them.
Yeah, they made billions and billions and billions of dollars, and young people have taken that to heart, and they somehow believe that stuff is real, and so they're dying, and they're killing innocent families and babies, and all sorts of carnage is happening. You see the cars, when you can expect to see cars basically obliterated and destroyed when there's an accident on the expressway. People are driving 70 miles an hour, 80 miles an hour. And so when you have an accident on the expressway, you expect the cars to be destroyed. I'm always an open person in my life and what I say on the radio. I don't hide anything. I'm a person who survived an automobile accident at over 80 miles an hour. I don't know, Kevin, did I ever tell you that?
No, you have never told me that.
No, man, I fell asleep behind the wheel of a car with my entire family in the car, turned over 6, 7 times, and am still here to tell the story. Um, and my entire family was spared. But I fell asleep behind the wheel of a car on the expressway. And I mean, I'm who I am because of a lot of different things that have happened in my life. And so, I'm appreciative that my life has been spared in many different times. And so that's the Earl that you get every morning from 8 to 10. An imperfect person who's gone through a lot of trials and tribulations in my life and been able to be spared to tell the story of what has happened, and also to be able to realize that having had my life spared many different times, I have a responsibility to serve. So that's who I am. But the truth of the matter is, man, all of these people who are driving on city streets, and it's all over the country, what they've done in the city of Milwaukee is actually lanes in major streets that used to be 2 lanes have been brought down to 1 lane. They've basically put concrete pillars on that landed lane where normally parked cars will be in order to get people to not pass on the right. So what you have in especially a lot of urban centers are people who are in such a rush that they pass on the right. Well, the right is considered what they call a landed lane. And and the definition and the reason it's called a landed lane is because that's where cars normally are parked. You don't have a right to be in that lane driving, trying to pass somebody else on the right. On their right hand side to try to get in front of them when there's only 2 lanes there, and one of them is earmarked for parking. And so when the people swing over in that lane, that landed lane is earmarked for parking, and they're trying to get around you and you're in the right lane that you're supposed to be in, Well, guess what? Sooner or later, they come up on what? A parked car. Because that's why it's called a landed lane. It's a lane that's constructed for people to park in. Well, now all of a sudden, the person's over in that lane, driving reckless. They can't wait. They've got to get around you. And so they're forced, once they come up on that parked car, to try to force their way in. Now, I got a buddy that lives in Seattle, Washington, and we have a conversation all the time about, whether or not people who are, driving in the wrong lane, whether or not we should get out of the way and let them come on in. When you take your time, when you're doing the right thing and you're driving according to, the etiquette of the road, and you're doing the right thing, everybody's waiting. And there's some fool who's in such a hurry, they can't wait like the rest of us. We're supposed to yield our right of way to let those people in. Now, clearly there comes a point in time where safety and common sense takes place. You're not going to, the fool is over there, and you're not going to wreck your car or force them to run into the back of the parked car. But I mean, what are your thoughts? 844-967-2789. Am I wrong? I know you see this. I know if you drive at all, at any point in time, you run across this. And I don't know when it ends. It gets worse. 844-967-2789. Your thoughts. You're tuned into the Earl Ingram Show.
You can see what's going on. Yeah, what's going on? Tell me what's going on. I'll tell you what's going on. Right on. Right on. Right on.
All right, welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789, 844-967-2789. Text us that same number. I constantly on this show talk about the FDA, and I talk about the facts the fact that we have a government and we have corporations that aren't doing the best for the citizens of this nation. So, Calvin, you drink coffee?
I don't.
Oh yeah, well you're young. You come on. There'll come a point in time when you'll drink coffee. You'll develop a taste for coffee.
I think I would have to start drinking it to get there.
Well, there'll be a time, just like the old people used to tell me, just live a little bit longer. Uh, and so when I was a young man like you, I wasn't a big coffee drinker either, but I am now. And well, I only drink coffee once a day. I drink coffee early in the morning. I get up at 4:00 in the morning. I have my cup of coffee, and I'm done with it. But there are many people who drink coffee, but I happen to like um, cinnamon in my coffee. So when I make my coffee, I use ground cinnamon. Uh, it has medicinal purposes and other things. So I put a little bit of that in my coffee. Adds a little flavor and a little bit different than just regular coffee. People have their own, ways and things of what they do with coffee. But anyway, so I was going across, information in this article in today's Associated Press. Ground cinnamon sold at discount stores is tainted with lead. The Food and Drug Administration warns. Wait a minute. So, ground cinnamon, we know the dangers of lead. If you don't, look it up. It will eventually take your life. And once lead is in your body, it stays there. There's no way you can pass it through. So ground cinnamon sold by U.S. discount retailers is contaminated with not only lead, but high levels of lead and should be discarded, federal health officials said Wednesday. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration says cinnamon sold by stores, including the Dollar Tree and Family Dollar, contain lead at levels that could be unsafe for people, particularly children, with prolonged exposure to the spice. The agency urged suppliers to recall the products voluntarily. What are you talking about? You know that's their Food and Drug Administration. You know that it's poisoning children and families, and you say you want them to recall the products voluntarily? Come on. That they should be taken off the shelf. You're admitting that there are these uncharacteristic high levels of lead in the cinnamon. You know it. And your response is you want them to voluntarily take this off the shelf? That should be a demand. They should demand that those things are removed. Well, I get it. They're in the Dollar Tree and Family Dollar. Poor people. Poor people. Certainly, they would not be allowed in the major grocery chains and others. They would not dare do it. But yet, this is allowed to happen in the communities and the neighborhoods where the people are the most at risk. Now, city products included in the agency's safety alert included La Festia brand, sold by La Superior and Supermercados, brand sold by Save-A-Lot stores. These are all poor discount stores. MK brand sold by SF Supermarket. All of these, again, are earmarked and targeted to the least people who can afford it. I want to know where is the oversight. Okay, so you can say, well, there was oversight. They've acknowledged it, that, this danger is there. And then they said extraordinary high levels. If that's not reason or rationale enough to recall that and get it out of the stores, and it's one of the reasons why I have such a hard time with politricks and politricksters, because the people who can make that happen are the elected officials. They can demand that that is removed. And yet they made it possible for corporations to continue to allow that to happen. Well, what we're going to do is we're not going to hurt the corporation, for heaven's sakes. What do you want us to do? It's going to impact you want us to impact the shareholders? Absolutely. When they're peddling poison to the American people, as an elected official, that should be your number one responsibility, not to the lobbyists. We're getting ready to vote, and we're talking about the presidency of the United States, and we get so Google-eyed about all of those things, and we're talking about the presidents and all of those things, when what happens with the elected officials on local levels and our government overall, it's what's at the root of the problems we are faced with. They're the elected officials. Maybe you don't know it, but it's a fact. Why would they not demand that they remove that? I can tell you something. If it was in a well-to-do community, it would never be on the shelf in the first place. So why is it okay in the poorest communities of this country that this can be allowed? And not only the fact that it was allowed to be there, but then even after they realize that it's there, to say, well, okay, we'll slap you on the wrist. We want you to remove it, but we'll leave it up to you whether or not you're going to remove it. 844-967-2789. You're tuned into the Earl Ingram Show. Up next, news, weather, and sports.
what you really need. You always say you had enough. Oh, you never wanna live it up. But everybody's got to move. Yeah, everybody's got to groove. Yeah. Everybody's making love shoulder. Everybody's got to live it up. Well, what did I do that was wrong? Just wanna have me some fun. I've been holding back for so long, but now I wanna, got to live it up.
Oh, excuse me, Calvin. I'm living it up. Welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. Text us at that same number. Calvin, tonight is the State of the Union address by Joe Biden. And, man, there are people who will be watching to see if Joe Biden stumbles, right? Well, he slurred a word. I slur words all the time, right? There'll be those who will look to see that twinkle, that sparkle in his eye is not there anymore. He's too old. There'll be people who will say, well, Joe Biden, he didn't read the teleprompter, right? Well, so many people will be watching to see, especially those who are conservatives and some who are, even Democrats. They're watching to kind of see a train wreck. They're not watching, or they won't be watching to see the status of what is happening in the country, which is really what a State of the Union is supposed to be about. And I'll tell you, there's not much of a win for President Biden. Even if he, does a great job with it, they're going to say, well, it was, he's reading off the teleprompter. Well, that's kind of the way it's done. Nobody ad libs the State of the Union. The presidents themselves don't write what the speech is going to be. They're speechwriters, many of them, who will collectively put together what, in this instance, President Joe Biden is going to say. But what always happens, doesn't matter whether it's a Democrat or Republican president, the State of the Union address is written by speechwriters, the best. So whether or not Joe Biden delivers it flawlessly, or whether or not Joe Biden makes some mistakes, which is easy to do, can you imagine reading that over an hour, almost a solid hour? And, I was doing some, I was actually, I forgot what it's called, but I was reading something for an organization the other day. And so I was supposed to, and I'm reading this, and they're going to, do some things with it. And several times I misread a word. I certainly wasn't standing there for a solid hour with the whole world looking at me. And so this is, it's a normal thing, but they're going to make this out of, something crazy. I remember Donald Trump when he was the president, and Donald Trump wasn't exactly, the swiftest guy when it came to reading the teleprompter. He read the teleprompter just like Ronald Reagan, just like everybody else did. So let's go to CJ. Good morning to you, CJ. You say what?
Good morning, Earl. We're going to hear the president speak of the state of the nation, and he's going to say it's strong. But I tell you, we are so weak right now. Everywhere you look.
Well, let me ask you something. Where are we weak at? And don't except you can say the border. Where else are we weak at, CJ?
Internationally. No.
Wait a minute. Where are we weak internationally?
Okay. Our enemies don't fear us, and our allies don't trust
Okay,
us.
so CJ, let me dispel, again, the talking points that you keep using. Number one, why should we as a nation want people to fear us? What do we gain by that?
Peace through strength and trust but verified.
Well, listen, man, again, you're using talking points, peace through strength and all those other kind of things. But what is there to gain? Our nation does not get stronger. We are not a better people when the rest of the world fears us. What all that does, CJ, is forces us to continue to spend money that we don't have on military.
We weren't at war like we are now because of this president. You can call it talking points.
It is
but
talking
the country
points.
Sees the facts, Earl.
CJ.
It sees the facts.
CJ, the country does not see the facts. You speak in terms of absolutism. The people that I'm around and the people that I listen to don't fear what it is you're talking about. So stop talking as if everybody agrees with what you're saying. They don't. There's a segment of the nation that does, CJ, but you can't speak in absolute terms that the rest of the nation is fearful.
Okay, we left thousands of allies behind in
CJ,
Afghanistan.
Thank you very much for the call. I tried. Let's go to Mike from Madison. Good morning to you, Mike. Your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. Yeah, I'm on my way to Madison. I'm normally from Kenosha, but anyway. I wanted to respond to the toxic poisoning in your cinnamon conversation from the
yes, sir.
prior half hour. And, what we've seen, and if we backtrack a little bit, is looking at history is so vital when it comes to problem solving and understanding what has brought us to this point. Nixon created an EPA because the water pollution and air pollution is so bad that rivers were catching on fire in many parts of Southern California.
So hang
example,
on.
You couldn't see across the street. So
for those who don't know, EPA is the Environmental Protection Agency. Go ahead.
That's correct. And then, we started seeing, Roundup in our water. We started, having these PFAS, these chemicals, forever chemicals that are popping up. And whenever we try to address them as a group, the response that we heard over and over and over again was that, but it's going to cost so much. Superfund sites that we identified in the 70s, 90% of them are still out there as a Superfund. We have never committed to cleaning up our big messes like, quite frankly, we were taught by our parents and our grandparents, our family. And the reason why they justify not doing it is because, it costs too much money and it's going to pinch the profitability of the corporates that are responsible for it. So that's what happens, guys, and girls, when corporations becomes people and then money becomes speech. So now they're the ones making all the decisions at Congress. They're the ones in control of our watchers, if you will, the FDA and EPA. This is what we get. And, let me close with this. We know Roundup kills hundreds of thousands of people every year. We know that it's partly responsible for Alzheimer's and a lot of the brain tumor activity, much less, a plethora of other illnesses. But yet, they're still allowed to sell it. It kind of says it all.
So, Mike, you have hit on so many points. I know people think that I'm anti-American, but I believe this. I've got a pharmacist coming on in the next hour. He's going to be with us every Thursday from now on. And so we've got all these medications. We got a for-profit health care industry. And so, people have illnesses and sicknesses that impact and affect a lot of us. And yet, because of the things that we ingest or breathe or drink, that we didn't create those things, but they have these effects on our bodies and shorten our lives and make us ill. And yet this is all happening and our elected officials know it, and yet they kowtow to those corporations you are talking about, Mike. And I know it's not the people's fault. They don't know. They trust. And they can't believe that our nation would allow such an egregious thing to happen, yet they do. Hey, Mike, thank you very much for the call, man. I really appreciate it. Tom, how you doing, man?
Good morning, Earl. First off, we the people ultimately are the government, not the corporations, and we must get money out of politics in order to restore government back to we the people. Mike is absolutely correct, and I think people are really starting to wake up. You're hearing about it more and more throughout the country. It's money and politics. That's the problem. Think about how much money they're going to spend on these upcoming elections. It's going to be baffling in terms of what we could actually be giving back to we the people rather than to this. And the media does not talk about Citizens United, which any of your audience people out there, if you want, please look up Citizens United, where the Supreme Court allowed for legal gambling to take place in our country. It's been a mess ever since George War Criminal Bush actually put the Supreme Court justices in that actually passed Citizens United, which allowed for unlimited amount of money to be given by the corporations to the politicians. And we need to know that. Also, I hope Joe Biden puts these people on notice tonight like he did last year. And he talks about Social Security, and he talks about it and says, okay, or about Ukraine, and says, okay, you've been saying you don't want to do anything about it. Let's do it now, if that's what you guys want. Because if you remember last year, the Republicans were all up in arms when Joe Biden spoke truth, which was that the Republicans wanted to privatize and they wanted to get rid of Social Security. And that's the way you do it. You have got to put them on notice. Because people aren't watching C-SPAN every day. Put it on notice when you're doing the State of the Union address.
Hey, Tom, thank you very much for the call. Hang on the lines, 844-967-2789. You're tuned into the Earl Ingram Show. All right, welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. Text us at that same number. You know, I was talking about the State of the Union and you know what people can expect. Let's go to the phone lines and Bob from Walker Show. Good morning to you, Bob. You say what?
Good morning, Earl. Always a pleasure to listen to your show.
Well, thank you. I'm honored.
I get a kick out of CJ. He has no facts to back up his statements. He's the typical MAGA. They have no argument, no facts to back up their argument. Here's another thing I've been thinking about. This inflation, right now we're at 3.1%. Do you remember years ago, Kraft, Heinz, all the big major players in the food industry were buying these small companies. Kraft, Heinz, Dole, they're huge. And the major players in the grocery industry, all these small companies that used to supply groceries were all bought out by conglomerates. And nobody can tell me that our inflation isn't controlled by corporate America. And there's nothing that corporate America would like better than to get rid of Joe Biden, because Joe Biden is too friendly to working people. And that's the truth. And I wish these megas, these people in this country, would get wise. If Trump wins, this country is going to be destroyed. It'll be an autocracy.
You know, Bob, a shrinkflation, right? All of us, and I've been talking about shrinkflation even before it became an issue. I noticed because I do a lot of the shopping in my home. And so I start seeing the packaging. Now they blame that on Joe Biden. They blame the price of food on Joe Biden. Joe Biden has nothing to do with these corporations that are gouging you and I. Now, if anybody wants to do something to stop the corporations from gouging you and I, it's Congress. They're the ones who have control over that. They can create the laws and force them to stop gouging and taking advantage of you and I and charging higher prices. That's not the president's role. That's the Congress role. But people aren't aware of it. I wish I had more time. Thank you very much, Bob. Thank you for the call. Thank you for listening. Let's go to Mike from Cedarburg. Good morning to you, Mike. Thank you very much for the call. You say what?
I say that gentleman that called about the EPA, does he know who the first director of the EPA was?
I don't know.
Neil Gorsuch's mother, Eddie Gorsuch.
Okay.
And they started that after the Cuyahoga River in Cleveland started a fire. And it burned for several days. I remember it well.
So, well, thanks for the information, but your thoughts?
Lake Erie, it takes 2 years to flush itself. Lake Michigan takes over 100 years to flush itself. That's why it's a national treasure that must be protected at all costs.
So you know who's in a position to do that, right? It's, again, Congress. It's their responsibility to protect that. Is it safe to say that?
But right now, you'd never get anything through the House.
I know.
You can't even get the aid to Ukraine. And these Ukrainian people are suffering. There won't be a Ukraine if we don't give them aid.
Well, but again, who's stopping that? Mike, who's preventing that?
Mike Johnson and the Republicans.
And so,
the GOP.
You know, Mike, that's all we're saying here, right? The people are aware. There are people in this country who are aware of the things that are happening, and I think more and more, I feel more and more confident when I hear people like Mike from Cedarburg and others who really see it. They understand. Bob from Waukesha, the last caller, a caller before Mike. They see it. They understand. And it doesn't matter what Fox News or CJ or any others people on the right who are trying to get people to, you know, to believe that what they're saying is true. No, it's an illusion. People aren't crazy. People know what's going on. What's the old axiom? You can fool some of the people all the time, but you can't fool all of the people all the time. So, that some of those people that Donald Trump and Republicans are, are believing or getting to believe them, that's not the majority of the people. And I do believe that the majority of the people understand that things aren't right. They know that something has to change. And the people who are stopping the change and what's right for the people happen to be on the other side of Joe Biden. It's just the truth. The people who are preventing the legislation that's necessary to put things in order happen to be called Republican. Just the truth. Anyway, 844-967-2789. We're going to be joined by Omar, the pharmacist, Dr. Omar, the pharmacist, as we continue what I think is a great segment every Thursday, 9 to 10 a.m. on the Earl Ingram Show, 540 AM WAUK 101 FM The Show, and Civic Media. Up next, news, weather, and sports. Hey, Dr. Omar, how you doing, sir? Let's see. Can I hear him?
You should be able to. Are you there, Dr.
Hey,
Omar?
hey, Dr. Omar? Can't hear you. Dr. Omar? He's on, yeah. There you are. Dr. Omar, can you hear me? Yeah, I can hear you now. How you doing, Dr. Omar?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Earl? Good to hear from you again.
Great to see you. It's great to hear you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah, here as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for accepting the invitation to do this. You bring so much to the table. There's so many people who enjoy the information that you are bringing, and I think we're going to do some great things with this.
Wonderful. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, now at any point in time, if there's something that you want to talk about that I'm
Correct.
not talking about, make sure you just go ahead and say this is some information that you think you need to get out. It doesn't have to be me leading the conversation all the time. You clearly can talk about different things that you think are important to this conversation and that will help
Wonderful.
people.
Wonderful. Okay, okay. Seems like a plan.
Yeah, yeah, it's and
We're
when
going
and
to help
so
each other then.
and that's going to help the community. And so,
Wonderful.
to me, that's the most important thing. I'm excited that the radio station thinks this is worthy, and that's come all the way from the top.
Wonderful. I like
Yes,
that,
sir.
and I will hope that it's going to be a beautiful show.
Well, I already know you got a great personality.
Thank you, Earl.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay. So I've got some where um you know I was looking Dr. Omar about some of the medications I'm taking. And I looked on the list of the top 20 outpatient drugs that that are listed, and and I'm taking levothyroxine as one of them. I'm taking athorstatin. That's on the list. I take carvedilol. Um, so I just want to ask you. We'll do radio on the radio, okay, instead of
Wonderful.
on the phone. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
All right. This is a very good question. Very good question. I'll
Yes.
have some answers. All right.
Better than GPT-4. It benchmarks according to
Being my friend, I said you call Dr. Robert. Day or night, he'll be there anytime at all. Dr. Robert, Dr. Robert. You're a new and better man. He helps you to understand. He does everything he can. Dr. Robert.
All right. Welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. It's 844-967-2789. You can text us at that same number. And as promised, a brand new segment on the Earl Ingram Show. I want to welcome back and to Dr. Omar, the pharmacist, and we're going to have him on every Thursday from now on, at 9 a.m. So if you got questions about the medications you take and all those things, no better person to answer those questions than Dr. Omar of WellPoint Pharmacy in Mequon. Good morning, Dr. Omar, and welcome back.
Hey, good morning, Earl. Welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, man. People enjoy our conversations and our interaction, and they accept it more than anything else because, one thing we do know, those of us as we've gotten older, is we're taking a whole lot of medication. And so it's not that we don't trust our doctors. We just know that something is not right, man, when you got 10 bottles of medication that you're taking.
Yes.
And you used to not take any, but now you're taking 10 bottles of medication. And so for you in the listening audience, this is really for you. So you're taking medications that you don't know why and how long you've been taking them, and whether or not you should continue to take them, and the mixture of the medications that you are taking, and whether or not those things are impacting you in a negative way. Dr. Umar is the guy who can certainly help give you information about the interactions of those medications. And so I think that's critically important. So anyway, Dr. Umar, I want to begin by myself, okay, and some of the meds that I'm on. And so I take levothyroxine. I take a thorostatin, 80
Torvastatin,
mil,
yes.
a thorostatin, 80 milligrams.
Yes.
Levothyroxine, 137 mcg, and tamsulosin, 0.4 milligrams. Now, I don't know, but I started looking at a list of the top 20 medications that are prescribed by doctors. Atorvastatin is number one.
Yes.
So what is atorvastatin, and why are doctors prescribing it so much?
This is an important medication if the lipid profile is showing that we have a problem in the LDL, low density lipoprotein, which is an important marker for cardiovascular risk. So if you have deposition of lipids, that unwanted lipids in the cholesterol bigger scheme of things, this can cause a problem. So we don't want to have a stroke later in the years. So that's why they want to lower this risk by lowering this important measure, which is the LDL. So they prescribe atorvastatin, rosuvastatin, simvastatin, and the dose should be evaluated as the numbers get better. So telling you you're taking 80 milligram doesn't mean you're going to take 80 milligram for the rest of your life. There can be evaluation of the dose, there can be lowering of the dose, or we can use a lower dose with another supplement to help to mitigate the side effect of the medication, because the medication like atorvastatin can affect the memory, can affect meal performance, can affect energy, and that's why I want people when they are taking medications not to freak out, but to ask about a very important question. What does this medication take from my body? I can replenish and replace. To give you an example, atorvastatin, if you take it, you should be taking a coenzyme called the CoQ10, CoQ10, CoQ10. It's a supplement. It has to be high quality CoQ10 to help to mitigate the problem that atorvastatin and rosuvastatin and simvastatin can cause in the body, which it depletes this important coenzyme that affects the energy, can cause muscle problems. That's why we see people starting these medications coming in a week or two or after a year or two and say, I have muscle weakness. I feel like my muscles are not the same. And that's why it's important for us to do the re-evaluation. I can keep going if you want.
Well, I mean, I clearly uh, was always a pretty muscular guy, and I've been probably taking a thorostatin for a number of years. I've probably lost track, maybe now 8, 9 years,
Yeah.
and so I just assumed that my loss of muscle was based on my aging. But now I hear you mentioned the thorostatin, and probably one of the side things is changes the muscle composition. But
Yeah.
so, but since it's the number one medication that's being prescribed, and yet I bet you none of us know what you just mentioned about there should be a supplement that you should be taking in addition to that.
Yes, there should be because it's in the fine print, okay? And atorvastatin is like this is number one drug for Pfizer for so many years. 1 year they made $11 billion out of the sales of this medication. The focus is to make the lipids and the cholesterol is the enemy. And I just like to put it in the risk factor and the risk criteria where it belongs. Yes, we have to make sure that the numbers are low, but there are other things that we can do. Number one is we have to choose the best statin to use. If a patient can tolerate to switch and recommend to the doctor to switch to the better statin, that will be always better. To give you an example, atorvastatin is better than simvastatin, which is the older medication in the market. Rosuvastatin, the Crestor, is better than the atorvastatin according to 2 large head-to-head studies. So I should first see if there is a better statin to take. Then I can see if there is a supplement that I can take to decrease the side effect. And then I can see if there is something that I can do in order to lower the dose of the medication that I take. For example, when patients are taking statins high dose, we like to see doctors keeping them for 3 months, evaluate the dose. For statins, if we take a lower dose of a statin, add red yeast rice, that according to studies would help to give same or even better results. That's going to make me get less side effects because as the dose goes up, the side effects goes up as well. But this is patient to patient basis, and we communicate with doctors to get their approvals on these changes because the goal, Earl, is not to take 10 medications. The goal is always to get healthier, get better. And since the food industry isn't as it used to be 10 years ago and 50 years ago and 100 years ago, we have to make sure that we are getting the right supplements to help us with the nutrients that we need, with the herbs that we need in order to get healthier.
So I take levothyroxine, and it's 137 mcg because I had my thyroid removed. I don't know, 15 years ago.
All right.
I had a goiter. I didn't realize that grew internally inside, and so it was hereditary. My mother and sisters had goiters because our thyroids were a problem. And so once they removed the thyroid, I wound up initially with lisinopril, and they changed that to levothyroxine. Lisinopril is the number 2 most prescribed medication, and levothyroxine number 4. Thyroid issues. What are we talking about?
Thyroid is a very important gland in the body that determine several things like the body temperature, how you feel, can cause if your thyroid gland is not working well, you can get depressed. Every other patient that comes to my pharmacy is taking levothyroxine, but very important, just ABC for the levothyroxine. Take it early in the morning with a cup of water and leave 1 hour before you eat anything else. Do not take levothyroxine.
So, while we work on fixing Dr. Omar's microphone, Dr. Omar, can we hear you now? All right. So what we'll do is we'll get that worked out because, I mean, the information that he just gave us is very important information. We're not going to get everything in with Dr. Omar today. Dr. Omar? Okay, all right. But anyway, in the interim, let's go to the phone lines quickly. Let's go to Steve from Green Bay. Good morning to you, Steve. Your thoughts? You have a question or comment for Dr. Omar?
Yeah, I had a question for Dr. Omar. I'm on omeprazole for my stomach acid reflux disease stuff. And I was just wondering if that's actually medication that I can be on long term, and what are the long term side effects of me being on that medication?
So, Stephen, thank you very much for the call. We'll have Dr. Omar respond on the other side. 844-967-2789. I'm so excited about having Dr. Omar, the pharmacist, on the network and on the show every Thursday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. You need to start, thinking about the questions and other things that you have for Dr. Omar, all throughout the week, and he'll be here every Thursday. 844-967-2789. You're tuned into the Earl Ingram Show. Omar the pharmacist is on the line.
You're a new mailman. He helps you to understand. He does everything he can. Dr. Robin. Well, you're feeling fine. Well, we'll make you Dr. Robin. Bring that friend I said you call Dr. Robin. Bring that friend I said you
Is he working?
I'm trying to figure it out.
Okay.
All right. Can you hear me now? All right.
coming to you on a dust road. Good loving, I got a truckload. And when you get it, you got something. So don't worry, 'cause I'm coming.
All right. Welcome back to
Welcome.
the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. On the line, Omar, the pharmacist, a new segment that we'll have on every Thursday from 9 to 10. Dr. Omar, did you get Stephen's question?
Yes. Stevens is taking omeprazole now. It's just recently prescribed. And usually this medication, proton pump inhibitor, helps with acid reflux. So if you have acid reflux, doctor can prescribe omeprazole, pantoprazole, Nexium, esomeprazole. These medications help with the symptom of having acid reflux or acidity, heartburn after you eat a heavy meal. The question, how long do I take it? And usually we want to see the patient taking it for 1 month maximum scheduled and then as needed. As needed means if I have a heartburn or a bad day. But the problem, it's an easy medication to write a refill for. So we see patients taking it for years and years without evaluation. And my recommendation for Stevens is to take digestive enzymes with food. Papaya enzymes, these can be found OTC, very cheap. Take it after each meal and then see how things are. And then if you still have the problem, need to take the medication, check with the doctor if he can change it to a different family of medications like famotidine and ranitidine. It used to be ranitidine in the market, but now famotidine is more. And that's because they have less side effect on the body. Another thing is that you need to take probiotics because the omeprazole changes the pH inside the gut. Like the environment inside the gut changes for everything that you eat, and that can affect everything else, which we call the microbiome. Think of it as it is 3 or 4 degree Fahrenheit and you're wearing shorts. Okay, you're gonna get cold, right? You're not gonna be happy,
Yeah.
right? So that's the same that happens with the omeprazole in the gut. So we have to make sure that we fix the gut. So we take probiotics, we take vitamin B's, and if I'm going to take this medication longer than few months, I should be prepared for some serious side effects. After 2 years, I can get osteoporosis, so I have to prepare for my bone checks. And truly, the patients that need to take this medication longer than a couple of months shouldn't be that high in America because unfortunately it's one of the most easiest prescribed medications, but it can affect male fertility. It can affect blood pressure. It can affect deficiency of so many things. So that's why evaluation of the need for the medication more than 1 or 2 months is very important. And there are changes in eating habits that can also help with that. Eating earlier in the day, more vegetables and fruits, checking if I have gluten allergy or gluten sensitivity. So, yes, there are many things you can do to help you to quit this medication after a few weeks, but all with the help and approval of your prescriber.
So, Dr. Omar, Laurastatin is another. It's ranked number 7 in the most prescribed medications. Why are they prescribing so much Laurastatin?
Because they all belong to the same family of the statins, and
Oh, okay.
because heart risk is high. To be honest with you, Earl, we like to see the numbers of LDL, which is an important marker for lipid profile, between 40 and 60. And that's low number. We see people with 170 or 150 or 130. So we have to lower the number regardless because it will help to lower cardiovascular risk in the coming 5 years. So doctors get to be very aggressive in prescribing these medications, very liberal in prescribing the doses to make sure that they are reaching this limit. And the challenge here is to put some brakes on the doses and to try to figure out what else we can do. So the answer is not just the prescription that you take. So I would highly recommend that we do the checks on the LDL after 3 months or 6 months of changing in the dose. I would highly recommend that we eat meat just not more than twice a week. I would highly recommend that we start to take red yeast rice and take it in conservative dosing of 600 or 1200 milligram. And after 3 months, when the evaluation happens, the doctor is going to tell you, "Oh, what are you doing? Your LDL profile is getting better. You're doing something different." Then you tell the doctor that you're taking this new supplement. He'll tell you, okay, now we can lower the medication to a lower concentration that you take, or maybe if the numbers are good, you're just going to be controlled with good eating habits and good supplements.
So, two things, Dr. Omar. I talked with a friend on yesterday, and he was prescribed 80 milligram of Thorstatin, and he took it upon himself. He's cutting the pills in half, and without having contact with the pharmacist or his doctor, he has unilaterally made the decision to cut those medications himself. Um, how dangerous is that? And should people themselves make decisions on what they're going to do with the medications that have been prescribed?
The challenge is the statin medication is not something you will feel difference in your body from right away, because it's more protecting you from a risk that you don't see until
Too late.
the that we're having. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh. The problem that we're having is that it's a medication that I take now, but it's not. I don't see the results of it. I might see side effects. I don't see the results, and patients freak out from the high dose. We do not want patients to freak out from high doses of the medication, but we want patients to communicate with the doctor that they are worried about the high dose of the medication and try to find a solution. But I do not think it's the best approach to take it on ourselves to lower the medication, because these are numbers that are going to show in the blood profile. And if we have 80 milligram of atorvastatin for about 3 months or 6 months, and then the dose is going to be evaluated, that's not a bad plan.
844-967-2789 is the number. Omar the pharmacist on the Earl Ingram Show. Now's a great time. You can get in. Up next, news, weather, and sports.
I wonder can you hear I am? I'm a soul man. I'm a soul man. Yeah, I'm a soul man. Look, drive a rope and I'll pull you in. Give you hope and be your only friend. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm talking about a soul man. I'm a soul man. You soul man. Soul man. Soul man. I'm a soul man. What they do? They smile in your face all the time. They want to take your place. The backstabbers, backstabbers. They smiling in your face all the time. They want to take your place. The backstabbers, backstabbers. All you fellas who have someone and you really care, yeah, yeah. Then it's
All right, welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. You can text us at that same number. If you're just joining us, I want to welcome you to a brand new segment on the show every Thursday at 9 a.m. We'll be joined by Omar, the pharmacist, and you can certainly have questions and comments for Omar, and he certainly is not going to be a doctor, a medical doctor. He is a doctor of medication. And so he can certainly help you and I understand the medications that we are taking and give us direction and guidance. He'll always tell you, talk to your doctor. And so, that's the whole purpose of this, is to have a specialist, a person who is as skilled and trained as Dr. Omar is, to help us with the medications we're taking. Let's go to the phone lines, and Tom from LA. Good morning to you, Tom. Your thoughts?
Yeah, good morning. Yes, Dr. Omar. My question is this. We have a situation in the country. I don't know if you've seen the movie Dope Sick, but a lot of our doctors nowadays are getting, kickbacks, and they're getting things from, the different drugs that are coming out that go on TV, all of that stuff. Just trying to figure out how it is that we're supposed to even trust our doctors, number one. And then number two, I think you said something last time you were on the show, which I thought was really good, was that when a new drug comes out, it should have, I don't know if you said 6 years or something like that before you really should start taking it. So I know Ozempic is a big drug right now because it's actually helping people lose weight, apparently. And, I just worry about that for people out there, buyer beware, of course, but how long should a person wait before that new drug is out to actually even take it? And then second, how do we know to even trust our doctors because they're getting kickbacks from the pharmaceutical industry to push a certain drug? And I
Tom,
appreciate what you said.
Tom, it's great questions, but that part of buyer beware, I never accept that. That is ridiculous. That's ridiculous that is even in the lexicon, buyer beware. Thank you very much for the call. You want to respond, Dr. Umar?
Yeah, sure. So just a couple of things. I was mentioning last time on the show that a drug in the market, it should be there for 7 years before we can kind of see most of the side effects that can happen with it, because that gives enough time for clinical aftermarket research. Doesn't mean that new drugs, not to take new drugs because they are like still new, but I mean to always be aware that there might be side effects or problems that the public or the studies or the smaller pool of people that the medication was tried on proven to be effective. So not to I didn't say not to take those medications, but just be careful. The second is when it comes to GLP-1 agonist, the Ozempic, Monjaro, and the medications that are now FDA approved for weight loss, like the Wegovy and Zepbound, these medications have a side effect of weight loss or indicated for weight loss. The thing is that now there are millions of people that took this medication, and there is so many clinical trials about the side effects of the medication, so it's more available to see the scope of problems that can arise from these medications. And one of the problems that can happen is that it works as long as you take them. If you stop taking the medication, it's the A1C comes back, the weight can come back unless the patient is doing other factors to lower the risk, lower the A1C, and to help them with weight loss. So, other things, it can cause what we call moon face, can affect the deposition of the lipids or fats in different parts of the body. But just because these medications now are being taken by millions of people, I'm not talking Hollywood now because it's being promoted in Hollywood big time. No, there is millions of people across the universe that are taking this medication that makes it shortage drug now on the shortage list. So it's also compounded to cover the shortage. So there is more available supply to help patients. That's why I want people, yes, be careful, but at the same time, look at the news, clinical trials, see those coming from different countries so you get an unbiased view. And I think it is safe for and helpful to many patients, but at the same time, it's not suitable for everybody. But we should be careful. For the doctors that get kickback from drug companies to prescribe new drugs, I think we should trust the doctors that we work with. If you don't trust the doctor, just go to another doctor. But doctors worry about their liability. Like, of course, they want the public interest, but they worry so much about liability. If they think that medication that you're going to take is going to harm you, I don't believe any doctor in their right mind and who had the oath would be prescribing this medication. I think the biggest drive for the new drugs is just the drug companies, and we just have to be aware and read the fine prints. And the commercials are the worst thing because they don't tell you the fine print; they just tell you this is a beautiful drug.
So text Dr. Umar, what is good for osteoporosis and degenerative disc disorder?
That's a great question. If the person who's answering the question is a female, I would highly recommend that
She is a female.
because women get osteoporosis more than men. I would highly recommend that you check your estrogen levels, check your estrogen levels, check your estrogen levels. Women after menopause, within 5 to 7 years, many of them, according to studies that I've seen, very large studies, they start to lose bone density, and we see the diagnosis of osteoporosis due to the loss of the estrogen. So if your estrogen is low, I would highly recommend that you would replace it. That's common factor that I want to say. The other thing is that you should take vitamin D3 and K2 clinical doses, which is 5,000 units of vitamin D3, 200 microgram of K2. And that to help with absorption of the vitamin D and putting it in the bones. So D and K. Then
Go ahead.
calcium, but right source of calcium. Strontium, right source of strontium. So we want to focus on the bone metrics. And the challenge with that is that we want to build the bones, and it's not just calcium that you find OTC. It's kind of a program that helps with that. And of course, there are medications, which are alendronate, which are ibandronate. These medications are not suitable for everybody because they have some side effects. And these are what doctors would prescribe easily, insurance pay for. The challenge with them is that it prevents or decreases the rate by which the bone breaks, but does not build the new bones. And the approach that I like is to work on building new bones, and that's why I want to check the estrogen levels. I want to make sure that I take the right vitamin D and K and calcium. And these are kind of patient by patient choice plans. And the challenge is that insurance doesn't pay for some of those plans. So that's why it's, I would highly recommend that you do a consultation with,
Go
yes.
ahead, doctor. Go ahead, doctor. Finish.
Just do a consultation. If you want to do a consultation with me, you can visit my website, willtoprx.com. It's just with bone density, it's a plan, Earl. It just can take 1 year to see results, 3 years to reverse osteoporosis. And it's a big deal. You have to make sure that your bones are strong. So if you kind of fall, you don't break a bone easily. I have a relative that was in her car, and then just due to a bump on the road, she felt something cracking, and then she found that 2 vertebrae broke. And she's a pharmacist, and she didn't know that she has osteoporosis. It just happened out of nowhere. Now she has problems in her back that are longer lasting just because she was not looking at her bone health.
So what's so great about this program, Dr. Umar, and why it's so critically important is that all of this information that you are giving, Calvin, because it's a lot of information that he's given, but if people don't catch all of the things that Dr. Umar is saying, they can get all of this where?
You can get all of this at the Civic Media website, civicmedia.us/shows. You'll find the Earl Ingram Show. You can also subscribe to the Earl Ingram Show podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
And you'll be able to go back and hear all of this important information that Dr. Umar, the pharmacist, Umar, the pharmacist, is giving. Let's go to Mary from Wauwatosa. Good morning to you, Mary. Thank you very much for waiting. You say what?
Yeah, good morning, Earl. Thank you for this, helping us to inform ourselves on the drugs we take. And Dr. Omar, thanks for affirming the advice that I get from my functional medicine doctor. He's prescribed the hormones, the vitamin D and K and calcium for me, so very affirming. Last hour, we talked about lead level in cinnamon products, and granted, cinnamon is a food product, not a drug. I'd just like to ask your knowledge of the Center for Science and Public Interest, and if it would concern itself with monitoring and protecting us from the lead danger. Comments off the air. Thank you.
Great question, Mary, as always. Dr. Umar?
All right. Thank you so much for affirming on the information. Cinnamon. Well, honestly, the only thing I use cinnamon in my pharmacy to help lower blood pressure. I'm not sure I understood the question, but cinnamon is one of the herbs that I use to help with lowering blood pressure when I need another herb or supplement to help lowering it. Sorry, I'm not following much with the topic that you've mentioned.
So let me. Here's another text message. How can I find help for lowering my blood pressure medicines? I have been on for 45 years. I'm very healthy and work out every day. As I get older, I feel my blood pressure meds should be decreased as it causes me to feel more tired now. I'm very healthy otherwise.
Okay, I am going to give you some shocking question, okay, and I'll answer it after that. If you have high blood pressure, high blood sugar, and another chronic condition, and you're going to a desert island with one medication only to take, which medication to take, Earl? Which
Blood
medication to take?
pressure. Blood
Blood
pressure.
pressure medication. Exactly, exactly. We're gonna say it over and over again. We have to make sure that your blood pressure is under control, so I can help you with kind of tweaking the plan of your blood pressure medications. Just go to my website, wiltopiarx.com, and book a consultation. But in general, we need to make sure that your numbers are best, which is 120 over 80 or less, and you don't feel tired. Sometimes doctors get to be very aggressive in what they prescribe, and other times they would be liberal in time of in taking off the patient from certain medications. Some medications work better than other medications, so it's all about what's your numbers, and I recommend that you measure and check your blood pressure at least 3 times a week, different times in the day, because many patients have disciplined blood pressure in the doctor's office. It's not indicative of their overall blood pressure when they are in the resting in the house, at night, in the morning. So taking it different times in the day is very important, and then we go from there.
All right. 844-967-2789. If you're just joining us, you're tuning in to Omar the Pharmacist on the Earl Ingram Show every Thursday from 9 to 10 a.m. 844-967-2789. If you have any questions or comments.
What they do? Smiling in your face. Yes, this is the ghetto. Showing up now.
All right. Welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. You can text us at that same number. This is a new segment on the Earl Ingram Show, and I'm thrilled beyond words to welcome Omar the Pharmacist to the Earl Ingram Show and to the Civic Media Network. I think that when you look at what is important, as especially those in the age demographic of the listeners of this show, many of us don't escape as we age taking medications. And one of the things that when I first met Dr. Omar and the conversations we had, he impressed me so much with his knowledge, but not only his knowledge, but he's personable. And so I just thought those two things would fit so well with what I am trying to do here on my show. So Dr. Omar, is anything you want to say that you think is important? I've asked a bunch of
Yeah.
questions, but yeah,
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
think I just in the break I was looking at the question of about the cinnamon recall that happened from stores due to huge lead high concentration of
Yes,
lead poisoning. Okay, so
right.
I just want to say is something that just triggers the pharmacist in me. I'm sorry, I'm not following on everything because I am like we're swamped with information on a daily basis. Something that I want to tell the public is make sure that you do a detox program for your body every year at least once. Detox program, these are programs that consist from supplements that would help your body to make the liver work better. And also during the time of the detox, 1 or 2 weeks, you are eating certain foods that help to energize and revitalize the liver. So this is something that I try to group the patients once a year in January mostly, and we would do this program together. And that's because we have a lot of poisons that can come from the environment, from the foods, from the medications that affect us and make us sluggish, tired, low energy, not able to process the food. And then there is the alcohol, then there is the cosmetics, all of that. So we need to give a body a reason for the body to relax and detox. So that's one very important thing. And then these kind of programs would include supplements to decrease the amount of poisoning that can happen in the body. It can be due to lead poisoning or kind of other heavy metals. And there are tests in the market to check about the levels of different heavy metals in the blood. Other than that, it's just the awareness is very important. We have to always deal with trusted sources for what we eat. Organic is sometimes a fancy word, but we have to focus on organic for the top clean foods that we eat. Strawberries have to be clean, have to be organic. Apples have to be clean, have to be organic. They were on the top of lists of clean foods in the last few years. So we just have to be aware because we cannot control everything, especially if we have little kids and they eat anything that they like. We have to be aware that we just have to find the balance, you know?
You know, Dr. Umar, I've often said, why do I have to detox myself? I don't know. I didn't knowingly take anything that's poison. So
Yeah.
my system is being poisoned, and I'm not knowingly doing anything or taking anything to poison myself. And I think there's so many of us who feel that same way. But you just said,
Earl, if you wake up,
people, go ahead.
if you wake up and just wash your hands and then just wash a couple of dishes, you have put more than 26 poisons in your body already, and you didn't even leave the house.
Well, you're terrifying people now, Dr. Umar.
I'm telling you, it's unbelievable how much toxins are around us, and that's why we have to take our multivitamins to help the liver to work best. We have to make sure that we're eating our vegetables. We have to make sure that, especially for women after 40, 45 years old, to take probiotics 6 months in a year. There is so many things that we can do in order not to get a bad diagnosis in our health or bad health condition later on our years. So that's why the health index and what's the prediction of what's going to happen in my health, these are questions that I can ask my doctor and see what they say, because they can see my habits when I visit them. And I don't just want my doctor to write a prescription for the current health condition. I want to know where am I going to be 5 years from now, because I have my children, my grandchildren. I want to enjoy them as long as I am alive, you know.
You know, Dr. Omar, man, this is it's so insightful, and I have to tell you, I knew that it would be a good segment, but it's a fantastic segment. It's a
Thank you, Earl.
great
Thank you.
segment, and so I know people are going to gain a lot of information. They're going to change. You actually can change a person's life with the information that you are talking about. Because I'm, just in the time that we've been talking here, I know now many things, many more things that I didn't know initially. And so I know I'm not alone. So we got to leave it there until next Thursday. Dr. Umar, thank you very much. Where is your pharmacy located, and what is the name of your pharmacy?
Wiltopia Pharmacy, Wellness and Utopia becomes Wiltopia, is at 136 North Main Street in Thiensville, which is in the Mequon area. And we offer free delivery across 25 miles radius, and we send the compounds all over Wisconsin and Illinois. And you can always know more about us and about the services that we offer from the website wiltopiarx.com.
All right, Dr. Omar, we've got to leave it there until next Thursday. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. I wish I had an applause thing, but I'll do it myself.
Thank you.
That's Dr. Omar, the pharmacist. Mark it down, the time on your calendar, and make sure if you don't listen to anything else, make sure you listen to Omar, the pharmacist, on the Earl Ingram Show. Thank everybody who made the show go. Up next, Jane Matnair and Greg Bach on Matnair on Air. Calvin, thank you. See you all later.
Thank you. Thank you.